Hello and welcome to EstiQ Media right here on YouTube. My name is Esther Machiko. If you're just joining this channel for the very first time, kindly subscribe, like, share, comment, be part of the conversation. There are several contents, and of course, we have other platforms through which we broadcast our content. There is Spotify, so it's easy. Go on there, type EstiQ Media Podcast. That's EstiQmedia. Just as written on your screen, type EstiQ Media Podcast, and then, of course, you definitely see all the podcasts there. We're also on Amazon. There's also TuneIn, and of course the usual where you get to virtually, possibly at any time that you're in and you're watching the video interact. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, you do know that ever since October 26th that the Supreme Court gave its ruling or its verdict, which affirmed and authenticated INEC's declaration that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, won. Well, the Supreme Court affirmed on October 26th that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu indeed won the elections, and since then there have been several reactions, especially those who oppose President Bola Ahmed Tinubu or other opposition political parties. It wasn't up to 2 days. Atiku Abubakar gave a world press conference where he also was disappointed in the ruling of the Supreme Court. He actually expressed his disappointment and he said it was quite a shame. Well, apparently Peter Obi too has reacted. Now, in Peter Obi's response, it was via a world press conference, which was organized in Abuja, and there was a lot that Peter Obi, who is the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, had to say, sharing his own, would I say, experience, and that is his own hurdle, what he went through during the elections, post-elections, and also trying to encourage the obedient movement, that is the supporters of the Labour Party, to be patient and look forward to 2027. You do know that after the Supreme Court affirmed the win of INEC on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of Nigerians who opposed the APC became a little bit more, not a little bit, they were more devastated and they were not happy. So to them, anything goes and they no longer believe in the system. Upcoming elections in Imo State, Edo, as that's Bayelsa and Kogi, we're already seeing the insecurity taking place, especially for the opposition parties, and it's something that there are fears that there may be huge voter apartheid. That is, a lot of persons may not come out to cast their votes to save themselves, and a couple of them feel that even if they come out to vote, well, with the way the Supreme Court went this time around for the political parties of interest that did not favor them, there's a possibility too that in these states that is governorship elections will take place on November 11th, that it will be the same fate that will be meted out on them. All right, let's roll back, to the Labour Party's presidential candidate during the World Press Conference. And in the World Press Conference, he said that he is disappointed in the judicial system, especially the Supreme Court. And I want to read out some of the things that Peter Obi said. He says that we are confronted with issues of national interest. Legal issues aside, the Supreme Court exhibited a disturbing aversion to public opinion, just as they abandoned its responsibility as the court of law and policy. So, according to Peter Obi, it is with great despair that he observed that the decision of the court contradicts the overwhelming evidence of election rigging, false claim of technical glitch, substantial non-compliance to the rules set by INEC for itself, as well as a matter of perjury, identity theft, and forgery that has been brought to life in the course of election matters. And according to him, he said these are hefty allegations that should not have been treated with levity. In other words, he's saying the Supreme Court treated these hefty allegations with levity. Well, he said that the Supreme Court willfully condoned breaches of the Constitution relative to established qualifications and prerequisites for candidates in presidential elections. It was quite a lot that he expressed during his World Press Conference, and we would say that it is not surprising if we begin to get reactions based on some salient issues that he raised up, during the particular World Press Conference. Now, I'm going to start off with some reactions from other quarters before I reel out what the president said, through one of his presidential spokesperson concerning the World Press Conference that he organized and the things that he pointed out there. One of the presidential candidates of the Social Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential elections, Adewale Adebayo, urged his opposition counterparts, that's the Labour Party and the PDP, to respectively stop blaming the courts of law for their loss. Adebayo, via his X platform, said Atiku and Peter Obi should stop throwing tantrums because they lost elections. According to him, the loss of two candidates in the 2023 elections does not give them the opportunity to undermine the nation's institutions, and the institutions here is the Supreme Court, our judicial system. According to Adebayo, Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar are undermining the nation's institutions because the courts did not pass judgment that would favor any of them. So the SDP candidate reminded his PDP and Labour Party counterparts that they have gained much from the legal and judicial system, so they shouldn't desecrate national institutions because of the pain of their personal laws, or rather, the pain of their personal loss. And I want to read out what he said, and I quote: "The courts are not to blame at Atiku and at Peter Obi, who have gained much from our legal system and judiciary, should not, because of personal disappointment, throw epic tantrums to undermine sacred national institutions. To forget the past because of the present is to forego the future." His submission is coming on the heels of Obi's declaration during a world press conference in which he blamed both the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and the Supreme Court for their roles in the final outcome of the 2023 elections, which produced President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, if you're watching this, do you also align with Adebayo's thoughts on the opposition, PDP and Labour Party? Do you align with the fact that they are throwing tantrums? Do you also align with the fact that the same institutions that sort of sorted them out or kind of defended them at some point, now because these institutions, which is a judicial system, did not go in their favor, they're trying to desecrate it, they're trying to mudsling it, and they're trying to deform the institution of, according to Abaya Debayo, an institution that is of sacred import. Well, whatever it is that you think, let me know in the comment section. I would like to actually know what you think about that. These are political issues and things that affect us politically at this point in time. With all that is going on around the world, it is vital for every one of us to keep abreast with what is going on in the polity and how this shapes public opinion, how this also, modifies orientations and possibly predict how the political future will be in the world, or possibly in Nigeria, the political future of Nigerians in this part of the world. So apparently there's a reaction. Like I said earlier, it would be surprising or astonishing if there is no plausible reaction from either the supporters or the ruling All Progressives Congress or from the presidency himself. Well, the presidency has eventually reacted, and this person is Bayo Onanuga, who is the special advisor to the president on information and strategy. So he said, why is Peter Obi casting aspersions on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Why is he casting aspersions on the institution that had once defended him when he became, or when he was eventually announced as the governor of Anambra State way back? This same institution that he is maligning and saying all forms of derogatory comments towards was an institution that at one point upheld his mandate to become the governor of Anambra State. So I want to read out what Bayo Onanaga said. Regardless of your personal opinion, let's hear what he has to say and see if there is any sense of logic in it. Now, he said that Peter Obi officially declared Labour Party as an opposition party, because that's what Peter Obi said. He said from now henceforth, the Labour Party will be considered a strong opposition to the All Progressives Congress, okay? And that he is also free to take another shot, another swipe in 2027 and focus on issues and not religious or ethnic sentiments, meaning that Peter Obi should focus on national issues, see how he can cooperate with this administration to build the country, to enable the country to form a good government rather than throwing tantrums or throwing out ethnic and religious sentiments. I want to read out what he said. Labour Party presidential candidate in the last election, Mr. Peter Obi, addressed a press conference just like Atiku Abubakar, where he cast aspersions on the Supreme Court and the Independent National Electoral Commission. We are at a loss as to how the copycat, these are Bayo Onanuga's words, we are at a loss as how the copycat and his faction of Labour Party convinced themselves they won an election in which they came a distant third. The grand illusion that made Mr. Obi believe he could have won a national election where he ran the most hateful, divisive, and polarizing campaign that pitched Christians against Muslims and one ethnic group against the other in a multi ethnic and multi religious society like Nigeria should be a matter for deeper examination. At the press conference, according to Bayananuga, where he tried in vain to gaslight Nigerians with false claims and innuendos, Mr. Obi contradicted himself. He was a beneficiary of judicial pronouncements in the past, now castigating the same court because its judgment did not go its way. Mr. Obi claimed the Supreme Court justices didn't consider public opinion in delivering what has been applauded as a most profound judgment in an election appeal where the Labour Party candidate presented the most watery and unreasonable petition before any court in the history of electoral cases in Nigeria. My people, if you're listening to this, I want to actually know what you think. What exactly is your perception to these words? Now, I spoke to some legal practitioners and they said Bayo Nanuga's response is rather not logical but more vindictive and has a lot of sarcasm attached to it. You can counter somebody's perceptions or opinion with your own logic, whereby it's intellectually thought of. People who are contradicting something or trying to say something you're saying is a counterfeit, it's not true. You can logically put things in perspective without being vindictive in response. That's what some legal practitioners have said. While some supporters have said it's the truth. Why would you, who had once benefited from this supposed institution that you now claim is an institution that has gone out of the Constitution or has countered the Constitution because it did not favor you? You are not somebody that has the national interest at heart. A couple of other persons would feel that the obedience were more ethnically and religiously divisive in reaction to anything that counteracts or contradicts their own opinion or perceptions to national issues or possibly against this particular ruling administration, that's the ruling All Progressives Congress. So anybody who says anything opposite to what the obedience or the Labour Party says could be an enemy, and so they use such derogatory, hateful, divisive sentiments and words and comments against them, thereby polarizing what the movement was all about in the first instance, where regardless of whatever ethnic group anybody belonged to, they really needed a new Nigeria. So the obedient movement was not in the first instance from a particular ethnic group. It was all and sundry because everyone wanted a different quality of leadership for Nigeria. I want to know what you think about that. I want to know what your thought is. According to him, he said that throughout the trial, okay, no, let me go back. He said, in a failed effort to mobilize and retain the support of his supporters, Obi gave them a forlorn hope that he won the election and would prove it before the courts. Throughout his trial, his lawyers didn't present any alternative results different from the results INEC uploaded on the IRA portal and the one signed by all party agents from the 176,000 polling units. According to him, we wonder how the Labour Party candidate expected the court to do justice on the basis of rumors, lies, and false narratives by sponsored partisans and fanatical members of his obedient movement. We expected the Labour Party candidate to know that the Supreme Court or any other court does not give judgment based on public opinion and mob sentiments. Judicial pronouncements, according to Bayo are based on evidence, precedents, and the rule of law. So, according to him, instead of bringing up extraneous matters that the AP thought the apex court should have considered to declare him the winner, in his view, or the APC's view, the drowning Peter Ruby, just like Atiku, was merely attempting to hold onto a straw in raking up new allegations, which exist only in his imagination and that of his hordes of supporters. Obedience or Obi's antecedents as governor of Anambra for 8 years didn't inspire any confidence as someone capable of running a country like Nigeria. No tangible records of achievements in the state he governed recommended him for the presidency of Nigeria. If Mr. Peter Obi truly believes in Nigeria, the time to prove it is now when all men and women of goodwill are rallying support for President Tinubu. So, according to him, he finally said, "We welcome Obi and his party to play the role of the opposition and start preparing for another shot at the presidency in 2027. We hope by then he would campaign on issues and not whip up religious and ethnic sentiments as he did in the last campaign." If you're watching this YouTube video, do you believe that Peter Obi whipped up sentiments and ethnic and went along the line of ethnic and religious bias? Do you think so? Whether you're an obedient or not, I need your logical perspective. Secondly, do you think Bayo Nanogal's response to all the things that Peter Obi said during his World Press Conference was vindictive rather than possibly logical in response? I'd like to know at the comment section what you think. And then what does this portend for elections coming forward for Nigerians? If oppositions actually make almost the same reference. For example, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP made the same comment concerning how the elections went and, of course, was disappointed by the ruling of the Supreme Court. Peter Obi is also re-emphasizing but trusting the same thing that his other opposition political counterpart said. So, what's your take? I'd like to know on the comment section. Meanwhile, subscribe, like, share. Always be part of the conversation. And based on the things that were ruled out by Peter Obi during the World Press Conference concerning the aspects of forgery, perjury, and false identity, and possibly our judicial system having to condone these false representations of our presidents. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what does that say for the future of politics in Nigeria? How would the political institution and how will the political infrastructure shape the upcoming elections in Imo states, Kogi State, as well as Bayelsa on November 11? Apparently, the ruling party always has the upper hand. And of course, for 2027, Peter Obi said that he intends to build the Labour Party, create a more strong structure, that is a stronger foundation within the Labour Party, and also encouraged the youths who decided to be part of the movement, especially this time there was more inclusivity from the youth, more participation, more attention. He says he intends to utilize that passion within the Labour Party, groom the party, grow it for them to become a strong political force against the All Progressives Congress. So I'd like to know what you think based on all of these reactions, and let us continue to ensure that governance will be the right mandate for each and every one of us.